New York morning trade, we are looking at the major U.S. stock averages higher. The Dow up by about 0.4% and the Nasdaq and S&P 500 in positive territory. And this does come on the heels of yesterday's sell-off. Now in today's trading session, we are keeping a close eye as Trump addressed the World Economic Forum in Davos, and he said the U.S. would not be using force to acquire Greenland. Well, the third quarter of 2025 here in the U.S. was the most active period for U.S. IPOs since 2021. 65 companies raising nearly $16 billion, up from 40 deals and $8.6 billion a year earlier. Now, that momentum was driven by 23 large offerings, including 5 deals that raised more than $1 billion. Now, as we look ahead, Anthropic and OpenAI are taking early steps towards IPOs, according to sources, while Elon Musk's SpaceX is set to be talking with banks about a potential listing. While the valuations are staggering, Anthropic could come to market at around $350 billion, OpenAI near $500 billion, and SpaceX close to $800 billion, just one of the companies among the most valuable companies ever to go public. Well, joining me live at the New York Stock Exchange is Jim Neeson, founding executive at the Connor Group. Well, good morning and Happy New Year, Jim. Thanks for joining me.
Remy, thank you so much. Excited.
Well, 2026 is well underway. There's a lot of anticipation about IPOs as we kick off the year. And here at the New York Stock Exchange, we have a listing coming tomorrow, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. But first and foremost, tell me about some of the drivers that are actually pushing expectations for robust IPOs.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you look, as you mentioned, 2025 was a record year. 345 IPOs, a 54% increase from the previous year. I call it like a bronze medal type of year. Really nice quantity, but the quality was mixed. If you look at 2026 at Connor Group, we're forecasting 375 to 400 IPOs. So about a 20% increase. Silver medal year could possibly be even a gold year. And really, if you look at it, the pipeline is driven by private company unicorns. You mentioned a few of them. There's 1,600 unicorns globally, 800 in the US, across lots of broad sectors. It's fintech, it's AI, it's software, it's consumer products, industrials. So a lot of pipeline growth, probably the best pipeline we've seen in a decade.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you broke down those data points. I think it's key as we move into this year. But given the anticipation surrounding some of the bigger IPOs here, how do you see market leadership shaping up?
Yeah, you know, 2026 really will be the year of the mega IPO. You mentioned, three $100 billion plus deals, but there's actually 5 expected in 2026. We haven't had a $100 billion tech IPO since 2012, and that was Meta. So you have a lot of sort of companies that have been in the gym, really building out their business, and they're too big for the private markets. So those are looking to go out into 2026. There's also a lot of other deals out there that really have been sort of preparing for 2 or 3 years, and they're the ones that are going to be driving activity in 2026 to probably make it one of the best years, better than 25.
And given those stats, how big of a windfall are we talking, not just for Wall Street, but also for Silicon Valley and also Main Street?
Yeah, I make the analogy as kind of like the Lion King circle of life, is that these liquidity events are really critical to sort of bring capital back to the LPs so that they can then invest in those next Series A, Series B, Series C companies. There's been a lot of pressure on both venture capital and private equity to have exit events. They've been sort of 2 to 3 years where it's been a little bit tame. Now we're seeing that these deals, as they get out, is going to be pushing a lot more sort of early, late stage type of a private capital, and then companies actually even testing the public markets.
And Jim, while I have you here at the New York Stock Exchange tomorrow, we're keeping a close eye on BitGo. So tell us about this IPO.
Yeah, it's a really exciting one. It's a company that great revenue growth, profitable, and they're in a space as well that they work with a lot of customers, not only on sort of custodian of assets, but actually even on trading and being a platform. It's going to be a bellwether 2026 crypto IPO. Really nice valuation. I also like it because they're being very sensible in terms of what they're looking to do on this deal, not sort of try to extract maximum value. I think that's really good for investors, retail investors. I think it's also really good as we move into the markets this year.
And so far this year in 2026, there's been a lot of uncertainty for the markets, but we are looking ahead. And as we look ahead, what risks do investors out there face if, say, valuations do run ahead of fundamentals?
Yeah, we're in a 4-year bull market. It's up by 92%, but you mentioned there's probably 3 risks that we're all watching for 2026. First, right now, the S&P 500 is trading 22 times forward earnings. And we haven't seen that value or that level since either COVID or the dot-com. So that's one thing that we're really looking at as evaluations. I think the second is geopolitical, right? As we have Davos going on today, there's often excitement around tariffs and other topics out there. I think the third is we got to remember this is a year of the midterm elections.
Yes.
And typically that puts pressure on the S&P 500 as well. So I think there's some factors out there, not ones that would sort of negate the bullish outlook for 2026, but ones that we always need to keep in mind.
Yeah, and finally, before I let you go, you highlighted those key points, but you've been around public and private markets for many years and through different cycles, whether we're talking about midterm election years, economic cycles, or policy cycles. And oftentimes we like to say this time it's different, but is it different this time?
Yeah, for me, I think of nature. Nature is beautiful because there's always pressure, right? There's storms that come through. Sometimes you think, that is it going to impact the growth cycle. The things that we're seeing now are very healthy. It often relieves pressure in terms of sort of an upward bullish market. It also kind of keeps us more sensible, right? The euphoria doesn't take over. I actually think the fundamentals, economically, macroeconomically, even the projections around growth for the S&P 500, we're in really good market conditions for an IPO window in 2026.
Well, Jim, we'll see how all of this plays out, but thank you so much for joining me today, and I appreciate your insights as always.
Remy, thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.